Welcome to a Dark Corners streaming tribute to one of the all-time greats. Roger Corman has left the studio. He leaves behind a body of work unique in the history of filmmaking. We've previously produced two long specials on director, producer, writer, editor, legend, star maker and one-man filmmaking engine Roger Corman. We've reviewed around 30 of his films, and our Patreon supporters are currently 5 months into a year-long series looking at another 50 films from across Corman's 7.5-decade career. With any other filmmaker, that would be considered pretty comprehensive. With Roger Corman, it feels like we've barely scratched the surface. There is literally no one to whom you can compare Roger Corman. He forged a career very much of his own invention, driven by a relentless desire for independence, acknowledging that maybe he wouldn't be able to do everything he wanted, make the films he wanted, but at least what he made would be his. Starting as a script reader, Corman went into production when the credit for his hard work on a film went to a producer. His early B-movies are not very well made, but they are solid stories. Corman instantly recognised something that few of his contemporaries seemed to grasp, that audiences would forgive anything except being bored. Moving into direction, Corman made 23 films in 5 years. Films as good as A Bucket of Blood and as bad as She-Gods of Shark Reef, as entertaining as The Undead and as unexpectedly thought-provoking as War of the Satellites. He learnt by doing and by failing, mentally stockpiling what he had learnt, and by the early 60s he was ready to put those lessons to use in his fabulous Edgar Allan Poe films.
Sounds of any exaggerated degree cut into my brain like knives.
And in The Intruder, a searing look at racial tensions in a small southern town.
I'll tell you something right here and now. It may be hot tonight, but it's going to get hotter for a whole lot of people. This here little town's going to burn.
The Intruder does perhaps represent the sort of filmmaker Corman wanted to be, but its commercial failure revealed the sort of man he was. One who liked to win, if only because that allowed him to keep making films and making them his way. We often forget that alongside these great films, Corman continued to make others. All 8 of the Poe cycle films are made in just 5 years, but in that same period, Corman directed another 11, including low-budget classic The Little Shop of Horrors.
Well, I gave it a name.
What name?
Oh, gee.
What, you gave it a dirty name? You can't even mention it?
Well, I named it Audrey Jr.
You named it after me!
After 1971's underrated Von Richthofen and Brown and a painful flirtation with the major studios,
I'm talking about staying alive!
Corman needed a break for some reason, which for him meant starting his own production and distribution company. He would not direct again for another 20 years, but managed to fill his days producing another 400 or so films, adapting as the market changed, always finding his audience. He nurtured new talent, Jack Nicholson, Martin Scorsese, Ron Howard, to name a very few. He served as distribution producer for great directors like Kurosawa, Herzog and Fellini, so their films could be shown in the States. Above all, he kept making films. Perhaps because he didn't know how to do anything else. Perhaps because he loved it. Maybe a little of both. To Roger Corman, making pictures seemed as natural as breathing, and as long as he did one, he was going to keep doing the other. Corman's death can hardly be a huge surprise, and yet I think a lot of people have been totally blindsided by it because it seems so out of character. At 98, he was still working, still making movies. It just didn't seem like he'd be able to find the time to die. Corman said he wanted to be remembered as simply a filmmaker. He will be. In fact, he will never be forgotten as one.
I think that to succeed in this world, you have to take chances. But I believe the finest films being done today are done by the original, innovative filmmakers who have the courage to take a chance and to gamble.
Thanks for watching. For more detail on the career of Roger Corman or on his Edgar Allan Poe films, please check out our other specials. What Corman film are you watching to remember the great man? I'm watching The Raven because it's awesome. Let us know in the comments below.